Winter Container Gardening Complete Guide. Wait before you scroll past this. What if I told you that your front porch doesn't have to look dead and boring this entire winter season? What if you could transform 6 dull containers into stunning, vibrant displays that will make your neighbors actually stop and stare? The best part? You can do this with materials you probably already have nearby. I'm Sam, and on Seniors Gardening Advice, we show you that gardening doesn't get harder with age, it gets better. Before we dive into this incredible transformation, if you're ready to learn how to create year-round beauty in your garden, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you've been following us, please give this video a thumbs up and comment below what container displays you'd like to create this season. Let's make your winter garden absolutely stunning. Section 1. Setting the scene and motivation. The weather outside is absolutely perfect today for this kind of project. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's definitely chilly out. The sun is shining bright, and there's barely any wind moving around us. But don't let that fool you. The crisp air tells us something important is coming. We woke up this morning to see a thick, beautiful layer of frost covering everything, and that frost reminds us exactly why we need to tackle this project right now. See, we've already cleared out some of the summer plants from other areas of the garden just yesterday. That work really motivated me to keep the momentum going. There's a cold snap coming. We're expecting temperatures to drop to about 20 to 21 degrees in a few mornings. That means any tender plants left outside won't make it. So instead of watching our beautiful summer color fade away, we're going to replace it with something even more special. Winter containers that will stay gorgeous right through the coldest months. My helper today is a 4-legged friend named Max. I just gave him some attention and I'm basically covered in his fur now. But that's what happens when you work with animals in the garden. No regrets though. This beautiful day is perfect for working outside, even if I do look a little ridiculous right now. The truth is, I've got everything I need to create something amazing. Looking at all my supplies gathered and ready, I can already see how these containers are going to come together. Let me show you exactly what we're working with today.
Section 2. Introducing the plant materials. The foundation plants. We've collected quite a collection of materials for today's project. Let me break down exactly what we're using so you can recreate this at home. Plant number 1, seeded eucalyptus. This right here is something that surprises a lot of people. Eucalyptus actually holds up better than you'd expect during our Zone 6 winters. Look at how pretty this is. The leaves have this wonderful grayish-blue color that photographs beautifully. Now, I'll be honest, by February this might start looking a little tired and worn, but for most of the winter season, it stays absolutely beautiful. The texture alone makes it worth using. Plant number 2, berry branches. These branches come with actual berries still attached, which means they add instant color and interest to your containers. We use these same branches in our other displays along the western side of the property, and they really make a statement. Plant number 3, magnolia leaves and branches. So beautiful I almost can't describe it properly. The magnolia adds a sense of elegance to whatever container you put it in. These leaves are large and create a wonderful visual impact. Plant number 4 and 5, 2 types of holly. First, we have traditional holly with those classic deep green leaves and red berries. Then we have a variegated holly that's absolutely stunning. The variegated version has that beautiful creamy gold coloring mixed through the green. It creates this pop of light that really brings containers to life. Both types produce berries, which means color that lasts. Plant number 6, noble fir boughs. This is the real workhorse of our project. Noble fir boughs make up the bulk of what we use in basically all of our winter containers. They're dense, they're long-lasting, and they create that full, lush look that makes everything else shine. Plant number 7, princess pine. Don't let the name fool you. This isn't actually a pine tree, but it's absolutely perfect for mixing through your arrangements. It adds texture and fills in gaps that bigger branches leave behind. Plant number 8, curly willow branches. Look at these beauties. These branches have these gorgeous spiraling shapes that you absolutely cannot find anywhere else. We used to forage for curly willow from trees that grow about 45 minutes away in the hills. But honestly, sourcing these materials has gotten trickier over the years, so we've started ordering through our local connections at the garden center. If you have a quality garden center or florist near you, they will absolutely order these items in for you. That's exactly what we did. Plant number 10, red twig dogwood. We still have some of these growing in our own garden that we can cut fresh. These branches give you that pop of red color that really makes winter displays sing. Plant number 11, incense cedar. This adds another layer of texture and scent to your arrangements. The foliage is fine and delicate, which means it works well tucked in among the bigger architectural pieces.
Section 3, Gathering Decorative Elements. Beyond the greenery, we're bringing in several special elements that will make these containers truly magical. Item number 1, LED warm white Christmas lights. These are the traditional choice. They emit a warm glow that feels inviting and cozy. The LED option means they use less electricity and run cooler than old-fashioned incandescent lights. Item number 2, star-shaped fairy lights. These are a little different. They're designed with these fold-out star shapes, and I'm honestly still experimenting with how and where to use them. They create an interesting pattern of light that's definitely more modern and playful than traditional string lights. Item number 3, copper wire fairy lights. The copper wire gives these lights a different aesthetic. They're more delicate in appearance and create a different kind of glow than lights on green cord. Item number 4, painted hydrangea blooms. Now here's where things get creative. We've been taking dried hydrangea blooms and painting them with spray paint in rich jewel tones. We're using 2 colors in combination. First, we apply a layer of apple red in a satin finish, keeping it light and letting it dry. Then, we add a layer of cranberry-colored gloss paint on top. The combination creates depth and looks more natural than a single solid color. Some blooms still show hints of the original brown, which adds to the natural appearance. When these are sitting in the green foliage, they look sophisticated and expensive, not like a craft project at all. Item number 5, sugar pine cones. We received these from a friend named Margaret, who has sugar pine trees on her property. She sent us these cones years ago, probably around 2019 or 2020. We've used them several times since then, and they add wonderful texture and a natural element that people absolutely love.
Section 4, Sourcing your materials. Let me address something important right now, and I want you to pay attention to this. Not everyone has access to these exact materials, and that's completely okay. Here's the strategy we use to make this work. We used to spend time hiking up into the hills, about 45 minutes away, to forage for branches and specifically red twig dogwood. That was wonderful, but life gets busier, and finding time for foraging trips becomes harder. So we adapted our strategy. We now work with the local garden center in our area. My family owns a garden center, so we have that advantage, but your local garden center or florist can absolutely do the same thing for you. When the florist or garden center is placing their regular wholesale order, we just ask them to add a few extra boxes to their order. Things like berry branches, magnolia, seeded eucalyptus, and other specialty greenery, they all come from the same floral wholesalers that supply professional florists. The cost is reasonable when you're splitting an order, and you get professional quality materials. For other items, you can cut from your own garden. Red twig and yellow twig dogwood are things we have growing here, so we'll harvest those fresh. The noble fir boughs we're using today, we ordered ahead because we needed quantity. But honestly, you can use any evergreen boughs that are native to your area. This is completely adaptable to where you live. The painted hydrangeas? You can paint any hydrangeas from your own garden or from a friend's garden who doesn't mind sharing. The pine cones can come from any pine tree in your area. Don't stress about getting exactly what we're using. The principle remains the same. Combine textures, add color through paint or berries, and create layers. If you're thinking about trying something similar, share this video with your local garden center owner. Let them know there's interest in these kinds of materials. Leave a comment below telling me what materials you have access to in your area. I read every comment, and I'd love to help you figure out how to create something beautiful with what you have. Section 5. Preparing the existing containers. Before we fill containers with new materials, we need to empty them first. This is actually an important step because we're going to save and repot some things. The plants currently in these containers include several specimens worth saving. We've got red Becky plants. Those are technically tender perennials. We're going to pot these individually and move them into the high tunnel greenhouse where they can survive the winter. If we can get them to come back next spring, that would be absolutely fantastic. We also have vinca plants that are worth repotting and protecting. There's lavender in here too. Some of it still looks healthy and strong, so we'll either plant it out into the garden soil or repot it for protection. We had one lavender plant that clearly didn't make it through the season. Sometimes that happens, even with plants you've cared for properly. There are ornamental peppers in here as well that we're going to remove and compost. The totem pole panicum grass will be cut back and moved out to the shrub border where it belongs. And we've got about 5 or 6 lavender plants that still look really nice. These will be preserved and either planted directly into garden soil where they're hardy or potted up for overwinter protection. This process takes time, but it's worth doing right. You're not being wasteful by clearing containers. You're being strategic about what plants can survive and what plants need special care. I got a big cart so I can load all the plants at once. Much easier than trying to fit everything into my utility vehicle. Plus, it keeps everything organized and prevents damage to the plants as we move them.
Section 6, First Container Set. The Statement Makers. These first 2 containers are the largest, and they're going to be the showstoppers. These are positioned prominently, so they need to make a real visual impact. My plan for these containers is to create a very strong vertical element. That's where the curly willow branches come in. We're going to use these as the main statement piece, and because these containers are so large and the branches are quite tall, we can really create drama. Here's what we're putting in. Curly willow branches as the primary vertical element. We're using about 20 branches per container split from larger bundles of 4. We'll add noble fir boughs next for fullness. Then we're layering in seeded eucalyptus and princess pine for texture and a drapey quality. We're going to include Christmas lights, specifically the white LED ones, because we have electrical access here with the extension cord from the boxwoods. The lights will be placed at the base of the branches to create an internal glow rather than showing individual light bulbs. The painted hydrangea blooms will be tucked throughout once everything else is in place. We're aiming for roughly 15 of those blooms per container. Let me be honest about the strategy here. I didn't plan exactly how these would come together. I'm relying on the quality of the materials to make everything look good. With materials this beautiful, the container almost creates itself, but I am trying to make sure each set has a slightly different character. Start by placing the willow branches first, still bundled at the base for stability. Spread them out gently to create that open framework. The branches stay bundled together at the bottom, which keeps them organized and stable. They create a stunning vertical spine that everything else will build around. Next, add the seeded eucalyptus and princess pine together. These create a middle layer with more texture and movement. Because they're naturally drapey, they soften the hard architectural lines of the willow branches. This layer is key. Without it, the containers would look too structured and stiff. Now add the noble fir boughs. We're going to use whole boughs without cutting them apart. Just pop them in and let them naturally arrange themselves. These create the bulk and fullness. Once you've got this layer established, start tucking in the special elements. Here's where the painted hydrangea blooms come in. We painted these in 2 stages, and now they're dry and ready to look at. Look at how gorgeous they are. I was uncertain about using painted blooms at first. Would they look too crafty? Would they blend or stand out awkwardly? But seeing them in context with all the green, I'm actually thrilled. They look sophisticated. The cranberry color isn't jarring because the foliage tempers it. The hints of apple red underneath show through in places, creating natural variation. Compare this to a bloom that's painted in solid cranberry. That one looks a bit flat in comparison. The layering of paint creates depth. Add the berry branches next. We've got beautiful red berries on these, and they provide pops of actual color rather than just texture. They fill in gaps and create visual interest at different levels. Now it's time for the lights. This is where I need to be honest about what we learned.
Ideally, you'd place the lights first, creating a circle around the center, but leaving room for your vertical branches. Then everything else goes in, and you can adjust the lights as you go. But I placed them later, and honestly, we made it work anyway. We're using 2 strands because with this much foliage, one strand wouldn't show through effectively. The lights are pushed deep into the container so you see the glow, not the individual bulbs. This creates that magical illuminated effect, rather than a functional lighting situation. The container that turns out slightly different than the first one, and isn't this how it always goes, has the noble fir boughs positioned differently. They sit a bit higher in this one than the other. But you know what? That's fine. Both containers look absolutely stunning. The slight differences actually add character rather than appearing like mistakes.
Section 7. Second container set. The elegant approach. These 2 containers have a completely different structure. They include obelisks as architectural elements, and they already have wire vine growing through them that still looks excellent this late in the season. We're not going to completely empty these. Instead, we're going to do some subtle supplementing. The main plant we're removing is the red Becky because we want to pop those up separately for winter protection. Once the Becky is out, we'll clean off any remaining leaves from the obelisk framework and the area around it. For these containers, we're introducing a new light element, the star-shaped starburst lights we mentioned earlier. I've actually never used these specific lights before, so this is an experiment. Each little arm on this light has 2 bulbs, one on the end and one roughly in the middle. There are multiple settings, including rapid blinking and slow fade in and out. The possibilities are interesting, and I'm curious to see how this looks once evening falls. For the greenery in these containers, we're keeping it simple and restrained. A few magnolia leaves because they're sturdy and show up nicely against the wild vine, some berry branches for color. The obelisk and the light are really the stars of this display, so we don't want the greenery competing for attention. The wire vine looks amazing right now. I know it won't maintain this perfect appearance all winter long, but for several months it'll look terrific. The kale that was already in one of these containers actually looks really good, so we're leaving it. The other container's kale is even cleaner because it sits below a Leland cypress evergreen, so deciduous debris hasn't fallen on it all fall. Here's a practical tip. When you're working with stems like magnolia and you only need a short length, cut the stem part way down rather than at the base. That way you get 2 usable pieces from one stem instead of wasting material. Just find the spot about midway down and make your cut. This is particularly important when you're working with material that you might have limited quantities of.
Section 8. Third container set. The wild garden approach. We have 2 more containers down the pathway that don't require plant removal. This is going to be quicker because we're purely adding elements. But before we start filling, we need to gather some fresh materials from the garden. I'm going to grab some yellow twig dogwood. We have plenty of red twig already in these containers, but for 2 large containers, I need more volume. The yellow will also add visual contrast and interest. Walking through the garden, I notice we still have some heirloom mums showing color. How wonderful is that this late in the season? We only planted 2 of them, but seeing those pops of color scattered through the garden makes me smile. There's also still color on the firefly fuchsia, and something that might be purple illusion veronica. The garden isn't dead, it's just shifting into its winter phase. The Arctic fire yellow twig dogwoods we're cutting from branches that have been on the plant for a while, so they're older stems with multiple branches coming off them. This creates a wilder, more natural appearance compared to fresh first-year stems that are usually single sticks. The older stems are actually preferable for this kind of display because they have character and movement. These Arctic fire yellow twig dogwoods are stunning. They absolutely shine in the light. When you look at them, they seem to glow. This is the element that's going to make these last 2 containers special. Into the first of these containers, we're layering in incense cedar along the bottom, then the yellow twig dogwood creating height and drama. Holly branches add structure and color. We're including some of the noble fir for fullness. The large sugar pine cones get tucked in for bulk and texture. Since this container is positioned further from the house in a more casual garden space, the less structured approach works beautifully. The wild, natural look fits the setting perfectly. The color in this container is absolutely stunning. When you step back and look at the finished product, all those elements come together to create something that feels both sophisticated and natural.
Section 9. Final Thoughts and Future Plans. We've completed 6 containers today, and I'm genuinely impressed with how they've come together. Each one has its own personality while still using similar materials and principles. That's the beauty of container gardening. The same supplies can create completely different effects depending on how you arrange them. Looking at our property, I notice we still have other containers that need attention. There's a window box on the chicken coop that's currently empty and would benefit from some winter treatment. But most of our other containers already have material in them, so they're fine for now. We've got plans for additional projects before the season ends. We want to create a couple of wreaths for the front gate, similar to what we did last year. There's also discussion about potentially creating a garland. These are projects we'll film and share with you in upcoming videos. If you're watching this and thinking about creating your own winter containers, I want to encourage you. This isn't complicated. You're not limited to professional growers or people with special access to materials. Yes, we have some advantages with family connections at a garden center, but that's honestly not required. You can work with your local florist or garden center. You can forage materials from your own property or from friends who have trees and shrubs. You can paint dried hydrangeas or other blooms. You can use lights you already own. Start with what you have and build from there. This is about extending your growing season mentally and emotionally, if not botanically. Winter doesn't have to mean bare containers and brown branches. Winter can mean color, light, texture, and beauty right outside your window. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, watching this project come together. I genuinely hope this has inspired you to think differently about your winter garden. If you're new here to Seniors Gardening Advice, please hit that subscribe button. We create content every week about gardening, growing, and finding joy in outdoor spaces at every stage of life. If this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. It really does help us reach more people who want to learn gardening. Drop a comment below and tell me what container project you're going to create this winter. Are you going to do painted flowers? Will you use lights? What plants do you have access to? I truly read and respond to comments, and I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you stick around because later this season, we're going to do our full Christmas light tour of the property, and we'll show you exactly what these containers look like glowing at night. That's going to be absolutely beautiful, and I don't want you to miss it. Thanks again for watching. The garden is never done, and the seasons always change. Let's make this winter season gorgeous. See you in the next video.